Paso.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. I appreciate the opportunity to do two things. One is to tell you a little bit about El Paso, but also to thank you. I am a product of higher education here in Texas. Like Ted, I didn't attend Texas Tech at any time. I attended other universities here, and I've been in academic medicine for 41 years. And except for 5 years when I tried to Texanize people at Hopkins, it's all been spent here in Texas. And it wouldn't have been without what you all have done, so thank you very much. I'll briefly tell you a little bit about El Paso and hopefully to inform you about what my request is. If you see the first slide, it'll show you what our trajectory is, and that is we're just 12 years old. We're relatively young. We're established in 2013 by the legislature, and so what I'm going to describe has happened over the last 12 years. The next page describes what our enrollment started. It started with 40 students, 40 medical students in 2009. You can see we now have about almost 1,350 students, 1,337 to be precise. And of the four schools, the graduate school, the dental school, the medical school, and the dental school, 3 of those 4 schools require clinical training. That is, there is some book work, there's some class work initially, but almost all of it requires an intense amount of clinical training. Some of that takes place in a hospital, but the vast majority of that now takes place in an outpatient clinic. So what I'm going to describe to you is why it's important, why I'm asking you to help us educate those students. The next page describes each of those 4 schools, just a little bit of detail. Our medical school, in total, over 12 years, we've graduated 850 healthcare professionals. We currently have graduated about 650 physicians. Senator Zaffarini, 40% of our medical school class comes from the border, about 25% from El Paso, and the rest from Laredo, Harlingen, Brownsville, the border. That's where we are. Our nursing students, 90% of them stay in El Paso. Now, not because we don't want to educate the state, we just have a huge need there. And most of the students come from El Paso. When they graduate, they stay in El Paso to practice, which is great. Our dental school will graduate their first students this year. We're very excited about that. It wouldn't have happened without the support of the legislature. And our graduate students work on diseases that are pertinent to us in El Paso and on the border: infectious disease, neuroscience, cancer, diabetes, and metabolism, all directly related. And our mission specifics are related to the care that we delivered because we're in an underserved area. We've served over 750,000 encounters over the last year, most of those from the state of Texas, some from southern New Mexico. The next page talks about what the chancellor's already talked about. We're not going to go there. He's already mentioned it. But I'm going to ask for 3 things in particular. That is a CCAP project, and then 2 special requests. A special request related to the Cancer Center, the Senator Perry mentioned. We've received some initial funding. After that, the private philanthropy in El Paso contributed $30 million. University Medical Center, $30 million in their bond. This will close that gap to complete the Cancer Center, and Lori's described why that's important. And the last is $60 million for a clinical building. We have never built a clinical building the entire time in El Paso. 40 years ago, University Medical Center couldn't run a clinic. They gave us a clinic building because they couldn't run it, and we've had the same clinic building for 40 years. It's going to cost $120 million. I'm asking that you all would help provide $60 million of that, and I'll take the rest on myself. So, and the last is the CCAP, and that is for the dental school, the first dental school in Texas in the last 50 years, if CCAPs are provided. So with that, let me stop, and again, let me thank you for your support of higher ed and answer any questions you have.
I don't see any questions. So thank you very much for
I'll
Perry.
just say thank you for here. Thank you for that area that you served, that if not for you, there wouldn't be health care. I need to be clear. Clinical science building, you got a $60 million local match or other source.
I would be the source, sir.
Comprehensive Cancer Center, that's a second installment of something we started.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's left on that?
That's it. That will close that gap.
So that'll be completely done?
Yes, sir.
And then you're asking for a completely new dental?
We don't have in other words, we built, our dental school was established. We took an old corrugated box factory and converted it into a dental clinic.
Box factory, actually.
Yes.
I think so.
It's the most beautiful box factory, but it's not a permanent, and it doesn't allow us to provide the specialties that we need.
Right.
So that will help the state of
Was
Texas.
that the first dental school in Texas in the recent, wasn't it like the first one we've done?
In the last 50 years, sir.
50 years, that's the first one, statewide.
First one. When the other 3 were established, there were 11 million people. There are 29 million people here, and 50% of people in El Paso had never seen a dentist.
What's your standing application process? How many subscription? How many are trying to get into?
Right, so we have about 1,200 students that applied for 60 slots.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Creighton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had
me, sir.
one more question
Yes,
for you.
sir.
First, it's good to see you.
Likewise, sir.
It's great to have you here in Senate Finance. I was able to tour with you not too long ago, and I just want to recommend to the members, if you have an opportunity to visit their facility and just to see day to day in the life of the students and the quality of the program, it's just incredibly impressive.
Thank you, sir.
You mentioned a request for a CCAP. Could you tell us a little bit more about how that would be used, and remind us again on the committee the last time that was brought forward on your behalf?
Right, so it was brought forward 2 sessions ago, about 4 years ago, and we requested a building that would have been
Maybe.
the comprehensive dental center. And unfortunately, we received, the request was for $180 million. That's what it took to build the building.
Yeah.
We received $60 million. We couldn't shell it. I couldn't even dig a hole in the ground and keep it there. So what we did was we converted that to general revenue, again, with your permission. That will provide some of the money for the clinic building, but we still have $180 million shortfall for the dental clinic. That will allow us to expand our class from 60 to 100. Currently, every chair is full of dental students right now. There's no way to expand. And we don't have orthodontics, pediatric odontics, periodontics, endodontics. So those are all specialties that we can't provide right now. And so we have to send our students elsewhere.
Yeah, I appreciate the reminder. I think it's important for the members as well. I mean, in our minds, we took care of a very large TRB, or now named CCAP, effort 2 sessions ago, and we don't do those every session, right? But in the Senate, instead of funding every single project that was a request, we focused specifically on health and safety definitions through the LBV, and we funded projects to, if not 100%, within an 80 or 90 percentile on the request. Here's my point. When the bill went over to the House for political reasons and everybody needing to go home with something, they took all those projects and backfilled them instead of our priority set, and gave them a haircut of about 50, 60%. Well, we all think that we accomplished TRBs or CCAPs at that time. We didn't accomplish any of it, because with that haircut, many members went home feeling good politically. They really didn't deliver hardly anything, because these projects, they just can't get off the ground, get started from front to back to completion as good stewards of taxpayer dollars and the mechanics within the CCAP itself, the way it works. They just couldn't accomplish it. So your testimony is that what was delivered had to go in general revenue, and that will just sit until sometime in the future when we advance an effort to accomplish those projects again, and no telling what those bids will be at that time. So I just wanted to remind the committee of that, because when those, we built a template in the new CCAP legislation, sort of like we did for MUDs a long time ago, because and the reason why, Senator Colcourse, is so that we can understand if the bid is $100 million, how do we trust that? How do we know that those are the numbers? So that template was established so that we could have more understanding of, is a $100 million building really a $100 million building? And until we find more validity in those numbers, the members are not trusting those big CCAP totals or TRB totals, and we fall behind. So thank you for the reminder to the committee. I don't know that that's on the horizon for this session, but I appreciate the recommendations, and it's important to know that that project never happened because of the significant haircut that was given to all of those priority sets 2 sessions ago. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's all the questions we have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for